Hi everyone, welcome back to Hack the Platform. My name is Konstantin and today we are going to talk about working with approvals inside Power Apps using a custom connector. Now, if you've been around the Power Platform community, you might have seen other approaches, for example, using the HTTP with Azure AD pre-authorized connector inside a Power Automate. Those work well. But in this video, I want to show you something different, how to build and use a custom connector for approvals. Everything is described in my blog post, which you can find in the description of this video. We'll walk through creating the connector, configuring authentication with Entra ID, testing it in a flow, and finally using it directly in Power Apps. By the end, you'll have a ready-to-go connector with 3 key methods: get approval details, reassign, and complete approval. So let's start. We'll start by creating the connector. In the Power Platform, I'll go to the custom connectors page, and then I will create a new custom connector. I will import an open API from the URL that is already provided. You will find the Swagger file linked in the description below. I've already prepared it for you, so you can just download and use it. I will call the connector Flow Approval API, for example. Once I upload it, we see the 3 operations that are already defined. So there is a get approval details, reassign approval, and complete the approval. The benefit of packaging this as a connector instead of making raw HTTP calls is that it becomes reusable, secure, and much easier for app makers to work with. Next step is authentication. Our connector needs a way to securely talk to the approval service. For that, we'll register an app in Entra ID. So I gave it a meaningful name. After creating it, I will use the client ID. I need to generate a secret. Authorization URL, we can leave it as it is. Tenant ID can be common. Resource URL. Resource URL, we will use specific resource URL, which is service.flow.microsoft.com. Enable on behalf of logging false. Scope, we leave it as it is. So now it's fine and we can create the connect. After the connect has been created, we have a redirect URL, the one that we need to add in our app registration. Also, in the API permissions, we add the right permissions for flow approvals. We need to add both approvals manage all and approvals read all. Grant admin consent, and our authentication part is ready. This setup ensures that our connector is authenticated against Microsoft Entra and only authorized apps can call the approvals API. Now let's test the connector. And the easiest way to start is with a flow. I've created a flow that can create an approval. And from that approval, we will understand if we can read the approval details and if we also can approve or reject. The flow has a number of other steps that will be relevant for our Power App use case, but meanwhile, I want to see if we can get the approval details and if we can action a specific approval. So we will test it. The create an approval created the approval item. It has the connector or the approval ID. Now we can use this ID to be able to get the approval details. I need to get the approval details, I need the environment ID. This is the current environment. And also I need the approval ID, which I can get from the flow. And as you can see, the request was successful. I received the information about this approval. I see whom this approval is assigned to, and I can see also all other configuration. So this confirms that other connector is working and is able to communicate with the approval service. What else we can do? We can also action the approval. For example, we can complete the approval. So if we want to complete the approval, we'll need the environment ID. We will also need, again, that approval ID. I can provide some response and also comments. Response is 200. So status committed. I was able to action the approval from this custom connector. If we go to the Power Automate, we see that approval was actioned. And if I check the wait for an approval and see the output, I can see that these are my comments and this is my approver response. So again, this confirms that the connector is working from the flow, but our aim is to take a step further and test it inside a Power App. Let's do that. I created a simple leave request app that consists of two screens. Screen number one, these are the leave request where the employees can create the leave request, and clicking this button, they can send those for approval. So for example, I can send for an approval this vacation leave request. When the request is sent for an approval, the flow will start. The flow will start, it will create an approval, it will save an approval ID in the database, and it will send an email to a manager. An email, which in my case contains just a simple approval link. I receive the test approval. I can either approve it here or I receive the link in the email. By opening this link, this screen will open. The available approval actions will automatically load here. I have approve reject, but if you configure anything else, you will see all available actions. Even though if you configure them manually, custom actions, you will still see them here. And now by selecting a specific one, let's say reject, I can click a submit button and see that the wait for approval ended. I can check that one. Comments from the app, that is my reject approval response. The app completed the approval. I was able to complete it from the app. So what I'm doing here, first of all, I'm checking if the link contains the approval ID. I used a Power App link. I added the approval ID here. I also added the environment ID here. And then when I send this link to the users, the environment ID and then the approval ID are taken from that URL and used in the logic. So I check if the link contains approval ID, then the app should automatically redirect the user to this screen. And that's done here on the start screen. Then on screen one, I'm making a call to the custom connector, flow approval. and I'm populating the drop-down with the get the approval details. I take them from properties response options. I'm taking the first task and populate it. I'm using environment ID and the approval ID as the input parameter. And after I selected a drop-down, I click a submit button, and in the submit, I call complete approval method, send again environment ID and approval ID parameters, as well as the properties. That's how this object looks like. Comments, you can certainly create your own functionality where you can also provide the comments. And this is the response that I'm providing to the approval API. So I have not added any logic that after the task is submitted, the app should redirect or close or whatever is happening here. So I just wanted to illustrate that this is possible to call the approval API, the custom connector, from the app and create complex approval forms within the apps where you should not redirect to and fro, clicking the approvals, and then go to an app, check the request, go back to approval and approve it. You can incorporate everything inside the app. The only thing that you might want to implement is somehow associating the approval ID with your with a row, so that later on, when a user opens an app, they can get their tasks. The approval API is smart enough, so when I try to complete the task that is not assigned to me, I will see an error. To recap, here's what we've done. We created a custom connector from a Swagger file. We registered an Entra app and configured authentication. We tested the connector from the flow, and finally we used it inside a Power App. The result is a reusable, secure connector that makes working with approvals much easier for app makers, so that you can incorporate the approval inside your Power App and you don't have to redirect somewhere else. The Swagger file is linked in the description in my blog post. If you want to try this out yourself, please feel free to do that. If you found this useful, please give the video a like, subscribe to Hack the Platform, and let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to see covered. Thanks for watching and see you in the next videos.